Well, they've just memorized it. So our producers basically created a list of words, and you don't know what these words are, right? So I'm going to show them to Elizabeth, if I can get her away from the books, and show her. Elizabeth, can you read this word to me? What does that read?
Happy.
Happy. And what about this word, Elizabeth?
Zipper.
Zipper. And what about this word, Elizabeth?
Kangaroo.
Kangaroo. And this word, Elizabeth?
Flower.
Flower. And these are words that she's seen in books, obviously. Elizabeth, what about this one? This is a sentence.
Not the written.
Nice to meet you too, Elizabeth.
Cowboys. Car.
I know you've got that book over there.
Definitely.
And I'm gonna go right to just a couple more. I know.
Sit.
Take a bath. And what about this one?
Good.
Good. Very good.
Morning.
Morning. That's a hard one. And you've never seen that before. Anne. Okay. I'm suitably impressed, and I think most people watching this are suitably impressed. But so how do you explain this? I know how it first started when you first discovered it. Michael, both of you, by the way, I should mention, are speech pathologists.
Correct.
Michael, you're an expert. So how did this happen?
Well, we've tried to do everything we could to stimulate her language growth. From day one, Katie has been using sign language with her here.
Sign language. You think that's helped in some way?
We do. We think anything relating to language is a good thing.
Okay, so I just taught Ben how to sign please. Can you say please? Good. Hi, today we're going to learn some signs that have to do with opposites. So let's start with in and out. In, you put your hand in, and out, you pull your hand out. Pretty easy. In and out. Next, the sign for on and off. On, put your hand on, and off, pull your hand off. That's easy enough too. On and off.
If you're interested in creating a deeper, more meaningful bond between you and your baby, what you're about to watch in this quick video is going to be thrilling, because a closer relationship with your child is only the beginning. You see, I'm about to show you how to boost your mother and child connection, and you'll discover how to give your child a big head start in life using sign language. And the best part is, it's fun and easy. Listen, if you think learning few signs is going to take a lot of time and effort, nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, 5 or 10 minutes a day will get you and your baby started. After all, you don't need a big vocabulary with a baby. Let me tell you how easy it is. I had a friend who was a total skeptic. She was intimidated by the process of learning herself and about teaching it to her baby. I talked her into letting me teach her 2 signs. Just 2 signs, that was it. And in 5 minutes, I showed 2 basic signs and made sure she knew the correct way to do them. 1 week later, she called me back, and hardly able to contain her excitement, her baby was already signing both signs back to her. She was hooked. Of course, she begged me to teach her more signs, and by the time her baby was 9 months old, she knew 35 signs. Picture how great that would feel. She communicated back and forth with her baby almost a year before most mothers can. And it got even better. At 14 months, her baby could speak 60 words. How many 14-month-old babies do you know who can speak 60 words? My friend told me she would have missed out on a lot of precious moments without this ability to communicate with her baby. Let me tell you, that feels so great. And it all started with 2 simple signs. Hi, my name's Andrea Plone. I'm the founder of SigningForBaby.com. I earned my college degree in communications, and I specialized in nonverbal communications and conflict management. I'm a daycare counselor, and I've been actively teaching American Sign Language to babies for over 5 years in classes and workshops. I learned sign language 10 years ago from my aunt, and she's also the co-creator of Signing for Baby, Deborah Parrish. She's had over 2 decades of experience in teaching sign language. As a youngster, I first learned sign language because I had a cousin who was deaf, but little did I know at the time how useful it would become with my 4 babies. I can honestly tell you that our family bonds are closer because of it. Let me tell you the story. When I was pregnant with my first child, Annie, I researched everything that had to do with babies. I'm sure you can relate to that. In fact, that's most likely what brought you here. In my research phase, I read all of the parenting books and magazines. I scored the internet for articles and videos. Plus, I talked to every professional I knew. One of those experts was my own Aunt Deborah, who started some research with me about signing for babies. At first, I was a little skeptical, but as I dug into the research, I was floored. In fact, I was shocked that mainstream child development experts hardly ever talked about it. Yet study after study opened my eyes to a host of real-world mother-child benefits that almost every mom wants for their children. If you've been researching like I was, you may have landed on this webpage because you learned these benefits too. But in case you haven't got around to them yet, let me share just a few. Let's start with early speaking, advanced literacy skills, higher IQ, decreased tantrums, and advanced social skills. What mom doesn't want that for her baby? Of course, when I started out this video, I told you how using sign language can increase bonding with your baby too. I'll give you more detail about what all that means in a minute, but I want to finish my story first. After looking at all the research, I thought, wow, I'm going to give this a try. Of course, I had the advantage of knowing sign language already, but after reading the research, I would have learned from ground zero, just like you. I would do anything to give my babies head start in this fiercely competitive world. And let me tell you, it's not that difficult to learn, as I shared with you earlier. A few months after discovering the magic of signing for babies, Annie was born. Here's a picture of her. I started teaching her sign language about 3 months old. At first, she just stared at me, but I kept at it. I wondered if perhaps I'd started too early because the results didn't come that fast, but in a few months, things were starting to change. I noticed she was responding to the signs I taught her at about 6 months old. The first sign she recognized was eat, and as soon as I signed eat, she would instantly start looking for what food I was going to give her. The most amazing thing happened though when she hit 11 months old. She started communicating back to me by using sign language. When she was hungry, she would sign eat. When she was tired, she'd sign sleep. And when she was thirsty, she'd sign milk. Can you imagine not guessing what your baby wants or needs? It's terrific. Over the next few weeks, Annie's vocabulary expanded. In fact, you're about to find out Annie's communication skills accelerated like crazy. But one of the exciting things early on was the fact our communication was solving problems I wanted to avoid. For example, before she was even a year old, every time she would get frustrated or start to throw a tantrum, I would just ask her to sign what was wrong. And 9 times out of 10, she used the sign to get her point across, and we solved the issue and prevented the tantrum altogether. By the time she was 18 months old, she knew over 150 signs. And let me tell you, people were noticing how advanced she was. One time, we were at the library for story time. We were in a group for 0 to 2-year-olds. They were doing rhymes, and the librarian in charge was having the children do motions along with the rhymes. Since kids love action, the motions made rhyme time much more fun and interesting. But instead of doing the motions with Annie, we did the sign language. The other moms were intensely curious what was going on. After rhyme time, several of them approached me and asked what I was doing with Annie. I told them we were doing sign language. Of course, the first thing one of the moms asked was if Annie was deaf. I told her no, and Annie walked over and joined the conversation. And when Annie started to speak in full sentences, I saw jaws dropping to the ground. Soon after Annie joined the conversation, one of the moms said Annie must be in the wrong group because it was impossible for a 2-year-old to talk that well. When I told them Annie was only 18 months old, not only did I see the looks of disbelief on their faces, I could feel how envious they were because Annie was so advanced. I got used to this kind of attention when we used signs and when Annie spoke. By the time she hit 2, she had memorized Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and was speaking almost like an adult, when most of her friends could only say a few basic words. With this massive success I had with Annie, I taught my next child, Brandon, baby signing too. I started Brandon out at about 5 months this time, and the results were fantastic. By 10 months old, he was signing back. Plus, Annie was helping me teach Brandon signing, which was fun and kept her from being jealous about her new little brother, who seemed to be getting, a lot of the attention. At that point, we were signing to Brandon all over town, grocery stores, the bank, the park, you name it. And the more other moms saw what we were doing, the more I found people asking me to help them to do the same. So I did. And as the word started getting out, I was becoming a bit of a celebrity with young moms in my town. Soon I was teaching classes. It seemed like everybody wanted their babies to learn sign language too. Look, in case you can't tell, I'm extremely passionate about teaching baby sign language. And since you've watched this much of the video, your head must be swirling with the possibilities of your baby. I would imagine that you could be feeling a little anxious about whether you have what it takes. That's completely natural. For over 100 years, sign language has been proven to help deaf children, but as you've seen from all the more recent studies I shared earlier, it's proven to help develop your babies a lot faster. How? Well, first of all, your child experiences increased self-esteem and a boost of confidence. The early ability to communicate gives your baby a sense of control that puts them ahead of the curve compared to the other babies, and this confidence stays with them for many years, if not their whole lives. Through sign language, they will be able to identify dozens of objects and emotions that develop their minds quicker because of their ability to understand concepts. And with confident communication established before they speak, your baby develops accelerated speaking ability, not to mention a head start to reading and writing above their peers. Think about it. How key is the ability to effectively communicate, even as adults? Teaching your baby sign language will make their life infinitely easier. You see, signing with your baby stimulates brain activity and engages the visual cortex, enabling your child to get it a lot faster than anyone else. Next, research from Dr. Joseph Garcia tells us that communication, like physical contact, is an essential component in our children's development. So what makes signing accelerate the process? It takes the average child 2 years to be able to speak short sentences. That's because the motor skills involved in speech take time to develop. But the motor skills involved in signing develop much earlier. In fact, I've seen my babies, and my latest baby that I just had started signing back to me at 8 months old. And that was well before she could mutter any words. And that head start in communication pays off as they grow. Results of a study conducted by two respected doctors, Dr. Linda Acradio and Dr. Susan Goodwin, revealed that 24-month-old babies using baby sign language were on average talking more like 27 or 28-month-olds. That's more than 3 months advantage over the non-signers. They also noted babies using baby sign language were also putting together significantly longer sentences. Plus, they discovered 36-month-old signers on average were talking like 47-month-olds, putting them almost a full year ahead of their average peers. And at 8 years old, those who had used sign language as babies scored on average of 12 points higher in IQ on a standardized IQ test than their non-signing peers. And just a few years ago, researchers found that hearing students in pre-kindergarten classes who receive instruction in both English and American Sign Language score significantly higher than hearing students with no sign instruction. Why is that? A top sign language researcher, Dr. Marilyn Daniels, says that adding the visual and kinesthetic elements you get from signing to verbal communication helps enhance a young child's vocabulary, spelling, and reading skills. Teaching your baby sign language will also give them improved memory storage and retrieval. Reading all of the studies make this clear. Teaching your baby sign language helps to develop their minds much faster. Here's an example. A few years ago, when my little Brandon was just barely 1 year old, we went motorcycling with my parents and took some pictures of the kids up in the mountains. Brandon loves motorcycles and picked up on the sign very quickly. A few weeks later, my mom sent us the pictures. Brandon found one of the pictures of him in the mountains and started signing motorcycle. But the amazing thing about this is that the motorcycle wasn't in the picture. He recognized that this was the place we had gone to go motorcycling. I couldn't believe how good his memory and recognition was. And what may amaze you is he was only 16 months old at the time. According to two prominent experts, Joe Fagan from Case Western University and Susan Rose from Albert Einstein College of Medicine, say that children who do better on memory tests when they are infants tend to score higher in traditional measures of IQ at 2, 3, and even 6 years of age. Sign language has been proven to strengthen memory skills by combining multiple forms of learning such as visual, kinesthetic, and auditory. This opens separate memory storage for intellectual development. It allows for all types of learners to absorb information using their natural preference, whether they are a visual, auditory, or kinesthetic learner. Using sign language opens the door to all three.